How's it guys, Munash here, and today we finally have some Rank 2 Red Goblin gameplay. Because I know a lot of you have been eagerly anticipating this video and just couldn't wait for it to come out, and I am very happy to say that I finally have it right here. So now you can all rejoice because the wait is finally over, and who am I kidding, nobody asked for this. In fact, I didn't even plan on making this video. However, I did manage to dupe him from a featured 6-star crystal that I opened a few days ago, and at first I didn't know how to feel about this because I knew that Red Goblin is a champ who does need the SIGs quite a bit. But I felt like at SIG 20 you won't be very effective and there is just no way I'm pumping stones into this guy. So I started playing with them as a rank 1 SIG 20 and I was actually quite pleasantly surprised because I remember when I pulled him from a featured Cavalier crystal. By the way, the only featured 6-star I've ever gotten from a Cavalier crystal. I was going for Cosmic Ghost Rider and I ended up getting this guy. Then I started playing with him as a rank 1 6-star, but without the SIG ability I just felt like this guy is very underwhelming, and I just felt like he's not worth it right now because he does have a bit of a ramp up process and the numbers just didn't make sense. So yeah, I just put him on the bench for a while. Then after playing with him as a rank 1 SIG 20 for a bit, I decided to take him to rank 2 because I was just genuinely having fun with him. And also I think he's a bit underrated. I think he definitely got overlooked by a lot of people and kind of went under the radar, but I suppose getting released the same month as Cosmic Ghost Rider didn't help. So today I just wanted to shed a bit of light on him and sort of just show how he performs in Act 6 type of content. So I'm going to go into Act 6 Chapter 4.3 and I am going to bring a few synergy champs because I cleared almost the entire path with them, including the boss. So I would say the main synergy here is with Symbiote Spider-Man, which will give him an increased buff duration of 30% when he is in Frenzy. Then there's the one with Iron Patriot, which increases the potency of his Fury and Energize buffs when he's in Frenzy by 15%. And finally there's the one with Carnage, which gives him an extra Bloodlust after winning the first fight, which really isn't necessary at all for this. It actually barely makes a difference. So first up we have the Sabertooth, and now I'm going to explain how to play him, or how I use him at least, because there are a few different ways to use him. While not really that different, just a few variations to use rotation. So the way Red Goblin works is that after throwing a special attack you will gain a certain buff, and that buff depends on the last basic attack you do before you throw the special attack. So if you throw a light attack before the special, you'll gain an Energize buff. If it's a medium attack you get a Fury buff, and then if it's a heavy attack you get an Aptitude buff. So the first thing I do for this rotation is I end the combo with the light attack before I throw the special one. So I get the Energize buff, which will increase my combat power rate by 25%. And also each buff will allow you to apply a certain debuff with the heavy attack. So if you have an Energize, it will be a power drain. If you have the Fury, it's going to be armor break. And then any other buff will just place an incinerate debuff on the opponent. So now what I want to do is pull up to the special 3, which will give me Frenzy and allow me to do a lot more damage. And that's the main sort of in-fight ramp up process for Red Goblin, and it is terrible. Well, it's not that bad, but it's probably the biggest piece of criticism I can give him, because it takes a bit of time and it's not very fun, and he does unlock a lot of his damage and utility only after that. So now I want to build to a special 2, and before I throw it I'm going to end my combo with the medium attack, and that'll give you the Fury buff, which makes a pretty big difference, especially with the Aptitude. I think it'll at least double his attack or damage. And then you'll notice that when you get a new buff, the last ones that you had will slowly start to expire because you can only hold one set of permanent buffs from his rotation. There's basically two versions of this champ, when he's in Frenzy and when he's not. And when he's not in Frenzy, he is a very basic champ, very underwhelming a lot of the time. But when he's in Frenzy, he becomes a lot more fun, does a lot more damage, more utility, because you can get a lot more buffs and debuffs, and yeah, you're just having a good time after that. So before I throw the special 3, I like to end with a heavy attack, and then that'll give me the Aptitude buff after that, which will increase the potency of his Fury and Energize buffs. In fact, it's a 120% increase to Fury, Armor and Precision potency, and a 75% increase to the potency of the Energize buffs. So now I enter Frenzy, which gives me the True Sense buff, which allows me to bypass auto block and miss mechanics. And this is where his SIG ability comes in, because when you are in Frenzy, whatever buff you trigger will trigger twice. So I got 2 Aptitude buffs here. However, the second one does have a reduced potency depending on the SIG level. So at SIG 20 it's reduced by 85%, but it still makes a pretty big difference because it also allows you to place more debuffs, because you place a debuff for each buff that you have on you. So just to recap, I start off with the special 1 after a light attack to get the energized buff and power control him. And then I can build up to special 3 a little bit faster, although it probably would be faster if you ignore the special 1 and just go straight to special 3. Although I usually still do like using the special 1 because after the special 3, I still have some time on the energized to get to the special 2 a bit faster after that. Also, it allows me to power control with the power drain off the heavier attack. It might not be a strong power drain, but it is very nice for playing more aggressively because then they'll never throw a special 3 when they're power drained. So now we're facing Sunspot, and this isn't a perfect matchup just because he is Incinerate immune. However, you'll notice that the damage is still not that bad in this matchup. In fact, the fight itself is not that different from the Sabertooth one because Red Goblin does have multiple sources of damage. He can dish out some big yellow numbers, he can do the Incinerate thing, although Sunspot is immune in this matchup, and then he also has some passive damage off of his special attacks. So the last 3 hits of the special 2 when you have the Furies will each do about 7,000 energy damage. And then all 5 hits of the special 1 will do direct damage equal to 100% of the original damage dealt. But then it also gets an increased potency of 100% for each unique debuff. So the special 1 can also do a good amount of damage when you have multiple different debuffs on the opponent. And that's actually the last part of the rotation. So if the special 2 doesn't end them, you just build up to a special 1 and then throw it when they have multiple different debuffs. And you can use the heavy attack to apply more debuffs based on the buffs that you have. And then you can also end your combo with the medium so the special 1 does more damage. So now we're versing a Stealth Suit Spider-Man with Aggression Regen. And this is a very good matchup for Red Goblin because first of all you can completely ignore the evade passively, and then if you have Despair you can just ignore the regen with all those debuffs. So yeah, he does counter Spidey Champ's evades like Venom, although he does it a little bit differently. He lowers the evade ability accuracy by 100%, whereas Venom just completely bypasses it. And I've seen some people say that's what makes Venom better at countering Spidey Champs. I'm not so sure about that because Venom does rely on that buff. I don't know what it's called, it's that black symbiote looking buff. But he does need to have that buff to counter the evade, so it might not be as reliable against nodes like Buffet, Fisticuffs, Pulfar, Power Snack, Tranquility, basically just any node or ability like Fate Seal that would limit you from getting those buffs. Whereas with Red Goblin it's a passive ability, so there's literally no requirement to being able to do it. He just has to exist in the fight basically. And so far I have not seen any Spidey Champ with a node that would increase the evade chance to be more than 100%. So I'd like to parry before throwing the special 3 just so I can rush in after the animation. And then the special 3 will apply 7 random debuffs, but you usually will get a power lock, which is very important for being able to play more aggressively. And after throwing the special 2, this fight is basically over. I don't need to touch him anymore. I can literally just watch him melt away with all those incinerates. And the special 3 debuffs also have 50% increased duration. So usually you can get to the special 2 before those debuffs expire. Okay, so now we have a Vision ADAHS, and this was not the cleanest fight. Red Goblin is not the best ADAHS counter, to be honest, but he did still work for this fight. But the thing is, I didn't also play it right. I should have just skipped the special 1 here and just gone straight to special 3, because the power drains don't really do much against ADAHS, and then I couldn't really utilize the energized buffs because he also has increased power gain. While we both have 100% energized from the node, but because it's on him as well, I'm gonna need to beat a lot of special 2s to avoid the special 3, so I couldn't really play aggressively to build a lot of power quickly. So I did take quite a bit of damage in this fight just due to blocking 9,000 special 2s, and then there's the annoying cold snap damage. So yeah, he's not a very good counter for this fight, but he still got the job done. Okay, now let's talk about his persistent charges, or his fight to fight ramp up. Because he actually is a ramp up champ in the sense that he does get stronger or the fights get a bit easier as you go along the quest. So you start the quest with 0 charges, which are called Bloodlust. Then whenever you win a fight you'll gain 1 Bloodlust, and if you win against a Spidey champ you gain an additional 1. And you can have up to 5 Bloodlusts. So what these do is they increase the Frenzy threshold, because there's actually 2 ways to enter Frenzy. First way being to throw a special 3, then you activate it for 30 seconds. And then the second way is to have the opponent at below 15% health. And that's where the Bloodlusts come in, because they will increase the threshold by 10% for each Bloodlust. So at 5, which is the max, you will automatically enter Frenzy when the opponent has 65% health. And then the other thing is when you enter Frenzy, you also get an additional 342 attack as a rank 2 6-star for each Bloodlust, although each stack reduces that potency by 15%. But now what's interesting about Red Goblin is you'll notice that his damage or his fight time doesn't really change that much compared to the first fight. Also, there isn't that much difference between fighting a champ with 300,000 health compared to fighting a champ with 200,000 health, just due to how his damage scales when he's in Frenzy. And most of these fights have the same formula. It's usually just Special 1, then Special 3, then Special 2. Sometimes I'll skip Special 1, just go straight to Special 3 and then Special 2, and then maybe finish them off with another Special 1. And then when I have 5 charges for these type of health pools, I'll throw a Special 2, then another Special 2, followed by a Special 1 to finish the fight usually, which you'll see against this Gwen pool. So that just makes the fights a bit faster, although it wouldn't be that much longer if you were to use the Special 3 or if you still had 0 charges. It only really makes a big difference in longer fights, like I'd say beyond Realm of Legends type of health pools. Now unfortunately what does go up can come down in this case, because he can actually lose charges or lose Bloodlust if you were to lose a fight, and to me this is a flaw in the character design. Although if you do have the Venom synergy then this won't happen, but I just think it's unnecessary, to be honest. I feel like there's no reason for him to lose charges just because you lose a fight. I mean, Corvus doesn't lose charges when he gets knocked out, although I guess he needs them a lot more than Red Goblin does, but still it's fairly balanced because they cap at 5. So it's not like you're gonna be in Frenzy throughout the fight. Now let me also talk about his immunities real quick, because he does have 2 of them. The main one being Incinerate immunity, obviously, because this is a Clapback path, so he wouldn't have been able to do it if he wasn't Incinerate immune, because he does also apply Incinerate debuffs. Then he also has immunity to Power Burn, which is a lot more niche, but a little bit interesting, because I guess it will allow him to do stuff like All Nothing Vision maybe, or what's that node that power burns you after a certain amount of special attacks from the opponent? Static Blast I think it is, but that generally doesn't happen unless you're using an absolute noodle of a champ or something. Yeah, I can't really think of any scenarios off the top of my head with unavoidable power burn, so yeah, that one is quite niche. So yeah, that's basically Red Goblin and how he works. I am still fairly new to him and need to play around with him a bit more, just to optimize my rotation and see where I can, tweak a few things here and there depending on the fight to make it a bit more efficient. But I am enjoying him, I must say. I'm not a fan of the whole build to Special 3 thing first, but after that he just becomes a joy to play, good damage, solid utility, very fun animations as well. And yeah, I really do like his animations. The Special 3, I'm usually not a fan of watching Special 3 animations, but I think his is one of the cooler ones. I like how he launches his glider at you, and then how sadistic he looks as he conjures up those carnage bombs. The attack itself reminds me of Gotenks' Super Ghost Kamikaze attack from Dragon Ball Z. And then the Special 2 is always just so satisfying to throw, especially when you're in Frenzy, because the damage is quite nice, coming from multiple sources. You got yellow numbers, red numbers, passive red numbers, and it applies a lot of debuffs which just help to control the fight or do more damage. And then the Special 1 is... I just like the way he dramatically whips out his tentacles and starts slapping you across the face with them like some weird-ass hentai protagonist. Then he blows a carnage bomb in the air like he's blowing a kiss before he launches it at you with his tail. So yeah, quite the romantic character, very lively and expressive animations, lots of red in his color scheme. And I can also really appreciate the attention to detail with his animations, like all those flames here and there. Like when you dash back and forth, you can see the fiery trail that your glider leaves, and yeah, I just think it's all pretty cool. I just brought She-Hulk for the 2 fights he's not very good for. There's a Vision with the Poison node, and then a Dormammu mini-boss with Footloose, and that node that reduces your attack by 50% unless using a Science Champ. Okay, so we have one more fight, which is going to be the Darkhawk Boss, and for this one I didn't even bother using the Special 1 at first. I just built straight to the Special 3, mainly because I wanted to get the True Sense buff so I can counter his auto block and miss. And this is one fight where you can see the Bloodlust being a lot more useful, because I had pretty much full uptime on my Frenzy after that first Special 3. He does have a lot more health than the other fights on the path, so I managed to get him down to 65% in that first Frenzy. So after you throw the special 3, the fight just becomes very easy because now you just ignore everything that makes him annoying. No auto block, no miss, you're doing a good amount of damage, you got a lot of debuffs on him so you can quite easily counter his regeneration. You can even power control to play a lot more aggressively and not even have to worry about baiting special attacks at all. However, unfortunately right now he is currently bugged, in the sense that his energized buffs are never permanent, even if you don't have any buffs before you activate them. So I actually did all these fights before I updated the game to the latest version. Then after updating, I noticed that he had the same bug as Corvus, where basically his power drain wouldn't work. He would still apply the power drain debuff, but he wouldn't actually drain any power. So I actually tweeted about this and tagged Kabam. Well, I tagged the official MCOC account. And then, I think it was a day or two later, it actually got resolved along with the Corvus buff. I assume it just got resolved because Corvus got resolved. So then I was playing with him in Cavalier difficulty and I noticed that his Energize is no longer permanent. So basically they just replaced one bug with a new one. So yeah, I don't know when that's gonna get resolved, hopefully soon. But it doesn't look like they're taking my tweets seriously, if they even are reading them at all. So yeah, I might just need to be patient with that. And yeah, that's Red Goblin. Pretty good champ in my opinion. Might have his flaws, definitely not perfect, but I like that as well. You know, I can actually appreciate champs who do have limitations and aren't just these broken, OP, what did the kids say, beyond god tier or whatever you want to call it type of champ. Because it just makes them more interesting, gives them a bit more character or identity. And it can be fun trying to adapt and play around some of these limitations. Also, he does have a relatively high hit count because he does have multi-hit special attacks and he has a 6-hit combo, so the hit count will be a little bit inflated in these fights, but I mostly just focus on the time or the speed that it takes. You know, that's way more important than hit count. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.